Good morning friends. Actually I am here to give a lecture on Java. My name is Shubhabrata Sinha. I am doing my M.Tech from Swarnandhara College. My M.Tech is almost completed, only Viva is pending. Now I am teaching you the core concept of Java. My name is Shubhabrata Sinha. Now see, whenever we are going to learn the Java, we have to understand different programming approaches. Now in history of programming, all the programs are belong to this approach. Now the first approach of the program, that is known as structured programming approach. Structured programming approach. According to structured programming approach, instead of writing the whole program together, we can divide the program into small modules or function. Now if we divide our program into small module or function, then it is known as modular programming, and the approach of the program is known as structured programming approach. Before the invention of structured programming approach, the whole program is written together. There was no concept of function, so codes was very lengthy. But in function, if we write the program, then whenever it is required, we can call that function. And this approach of the programming is known as structured programming approach or modular programming approach. The language which has brought this feature is known as C language. So if you have been asked, tell me a program which belongs to structured programming approach, the first example will be C. Now after structured programming approach, the other programming approach that are developed are object oriented programming approach, object oriented programming approach, and platform independent programming approach. Platform independent programming approach. Now structured programming approach, we have already learned that instead of writing whole program together, we can divide the program into small modules or function. And according to this approach, the programming language that has been developed is known as C programming language. Now after structured programming, the next programming approach that has been developed is known as object oriented programming approach. So according to the object oriented programming approach, we can write the program within a class, and we can create the object of the class. So similar types of objects that are common attributes and behavior can be grouped together as a single unit under a class, and this approach is known as object oriented programming approach. According to the object oriented programming approach, we can group the similar type of object which has some common attributes and behavior within a class, and then we can create the object of the class to call the different behavior. See, attribute means properties or member data, and behavior means member function. So a class can have two things. A class can have member data or member function. So whenever we are creating a class along with the member data and member function, and after that we are creating the object of the class, this approach is known as object oriented programming approach. Now object oriented programming approach has certain feature. So first I am telling you what is object orientation. So in this world everything are known as object. So there are some object which has some similarities, like let us suppose we are talking about multiple students. So we can create a class called student. But whenever I am saying Ram is a student, then Ram is the object of the student class, which will have all the member data and function that has been declared under the student class. Now see, according to the object orientation, the main features that are present are known as encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance and polymorphism. These are the four features of the object oriented programming approach. So any language which support object oriented programming approach must support these four features. What are the four features? Encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance and polymorphism. So first we have to understand what do we mean by encapsulation. Encapsulation means hiding data. Whenever something you want to hide within your class, then you can use the access modifier. We'll learn about access modifier later, but access modifier can be private, public, protected or default in Java. So whenever within a class you are declaring any data. Now within a class there can be two types of data. One is member data, another is member function. So any member data or member function you want should be accessed inside the class only, that cannot be accessed outside the class. Then you have to declare that member as private member. Then you have to declare that member as which kind of member? Private member. And this is known as encapsulation. So within a class, whenever you are using the private access modifier, that means we are implementing encapsulation. Encapsulation means hiding something from outside access. Next feature is abstraction. Abstraction means what? Providing essential details to the outside world. So hiding non-essential details from outside world is known as encapsulation. So abstraction is just opposite to encapsulation. Whenever you are hiding something from the outside world, that feature is known as encapsulation. And whenever you are providing access to the outside world, that is known as abstraction. If you want to understand clearly, think of a student class. Now under the student class, I have declared some member data like registration number, name, address, mobile number. So all these member data, if we declare private, means they cannot be accessed directly from outside the class, and this is known as encapsulation. But whenever you are writing member function, like for accepting registration number, name, address, mobile number, I have to write a function called getData. And to display registration number, name, address and mobile number, I have to write a function inside the class called putData. So getData function and putData function, if we declare public, then only it can be accessed outside the class. So whenever any member function which you are declaring as public or protected or default, that means we are implementing abstraction. Why? Because whenever you will declare any member function as public, then that member function can be accessed outside the class. So whenever you are providing access, that feature is known as what? Abstraction. So after encapsulation and abstraction, the next feature is known as what? Inheritance. What is inheritance? We can create some class from the existing class. We can create a class from the existing class. So inheritance is the process through which a new class can be created from the existing class. The new class is known as derived class or subclass or child class, and the existing class is known as base class, superclass, base class or superclass or parent class. So if a class already present, and by inheriting the attribute and member data from member function from the class, we are creating a new class, and whenever the new class will inherit the member from the base class, then it is known as what? Inheritance. So inheritance is the process through which a new class can be created from the existing class. The existing class is known as base class, superclass or parent class, and the new class, that is the child class, is known as subclass, child class or derived class. So this whole process is known as what? Inheritance. Last but not least in importance, the next feature is known as polymorphism. Now polymorphism we can divide into two parts. Poly, the first part is known as poly, and next part is known as morphism, morph, M-O-R-P-H. Next part is known as morph. Poly means many and morph means forms. When the same code is written in different form, then it is known as what? Polymorphism. Polymorphism, if you understand, there are two types of polymorphism. One is known as static polymorphism, another is known as dynamic polymorphism. As per the static polymorphism, this feature can be known as function overloading, and dynamic polymorphism is implemented by the concept of function overriding. So there are two parts. Poly means many, morph means form. When the same code you are writing in different way, at that time it is known as polymorphism. See, within a class, without changing the signature, if we write the same function name multiple times, then it is known as function overloading. This is called static polymorphism. Whenever I am implementing inheritance, there are two classes, base class and derived class. So let us suppose under the base class we have written a function. Now the same function, without changing its signature, I am writing the same function under the derived class. At that time it is known as what? Function overriding. So function overloading means there must be difference in function signature, but in function overriding there will be no difference in function signature. So function overloading is the process where the same function names are used, but there must be difference either in number of parameter or type of parameter or sequence of parameter. So based on the number of parameter, type of parameter and sequence of parameter, a function can be overloaded. And in case of overriding, the base class member function and derived class member function will have the same signature, because the number of parameter, type of parameter and sequence of parameter to both the function will be same. And this whole process is known as function overriding, and this feature is known as polymorphism. So basically, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance and polymorphism, these four features are known as OOPS feature. These four features are known as OOPS feature. Okay? So we have understood object-oriented programming approach. Now as per object-oriented programming approach, the language which is developed, that is known as C++. So C++ is the language which has brought the concept of object-oriented programming approach. Now a question comes. C++ is an object-oriented programming approach, but does it support the concept of structured programming approach? The answer is yes. So object-oriented programming approach has been developed after developing structured programming approach. So all the languages which support object-oriented programming approach must support structured programming approach also. That means the concept of functions are there. But according to the object-oriented programming approach, always we have to create the class. The concept of class has to be understood. Again I am telling you, class is a template. We can say class is a template or blueprint. Class is the template or blueprint, and the real world entity of that template or blueprint is known as what? Object. So whenever we are talking about multiple employees, every employee is having different name, different ID, different address, but all are employees. So if I want to programmatically do this thing, implement this thing, then we have to create a class called employee. Now corresponding to the employee class, whenever I am talking about a particular employee, say Ram or Sam or Rahul, these are objects. These are objects. So objects are the instance of the class, or objects are the real world entities which will have state and behavior. Which will have state. State means member data of the class, and behavior means member function of the class. Behavior means what? Member function of the class. So whenever we are talking about a template or blueprint, that must be created as a class. So different types of object. Like say I am talking about table. Table exists. So whatever thing which exists in reality are known as object. So let us suppose within a classroom there are multiple table, multiple chair, there are multiple bookshelf. So table, chair, bookshelf are three different objects. Why? Because they exist. Now these three different objects can have some common attribute and behavior. See, table also will have height with length, chair also will have height with length. So height, width and length, these three property we can group under a class called furniture. So if we say furniture, furniture does not exist. Furniture exists in form of table, chair and bookshelf. So we can say that furniture is the class, and which will have the member data called height, width and length, and the member function called get data and put data. Now whenever I am creating an object of the furniture class, we can say table. So table is the object of the furniture class. So furniture is the class and table is the object. Table object will have all the member data that are declared under the class, like height, width, length. Chair will also object of furniture class, which will also have height, width, length. Bookshelf also is object of furniture class, which will also have height, width and length. So these similar type of object, table, chair, bookshelf, can be grouped together as a single unit under a class called furniture. This approach is known as object-oriented programming approach, and this is known as object orientation. Now C++ has come by this approach called object-oriented programming approach. After object-oriented programming approach, the next programming approach that has been developed is known as platform-independent programming approach. So platform-independent programming approach, if you want to understand, first you have to understand what do we mean by platform. Platform is nothing but the operating system on which you are executing your program. Platform is the operating system. Now let us suppose I have written a program in Windows operating system. I have written a Java program in Windows operating system. So whenever I will compile that Java program, it will give me a bytecode or .class file. So how to compile a Java program? Let us suppose the program name is student.java. So if I am going to compile that program, we have to use the Java C compiler. So what we have to write? we have to write Java C. We have to write Java C student, Java C student dot Java. So this Java C is known as the compiler, which will compile student.java is the source code. After compilation, it will give a bytecode called student. It will give a bytecode called student.class. This bytecode, let us suppose, is created under Windows operating system. But it does not matter whether you are executing it under Windows operating system or Linux operating system or Macintosh operating system or any other operating system. You can execute it. That's why it is known as platform independent programming approach. So according to the platform independent programming approach, the programs can be executed across all the platform. But think about C and C++. Do you think if I compile a C or C++ in Windows operating system, then it will give me a exe file, executable file? Can I take that executable file and execute in some other operating system like Linux, Unix or Macintosh? That is not possible. Again, you have to compile the source code, then only the executable code can be executed. But if we compile a source code in C or C++ in Windows, then the executable file can be executed only in Windows operating system. It cannot be executed in the different operating system. But in case of Java, if we compile Java source code, then it will give me the bytecode that is known as student.class. This student.class bytecode can be executed under any operating system where JVM is present. What is present? JVM. What do you mean by the JVM? JVM stands for Java Virtual Machine. It is a platform under which any bytecode can be executed. So this is the new programming approach that is known as platform independent programming approach. According to this approach, the concept of write once and run anywhere. Write once and run anywhere. That means I will write the source code only one. But after compilation, I can execute the bytecode in any operating system. So according to the platform independent approach, this new approach has been brought by the language that is known as Java. That is known as what? Java. So Java is the programming language which supports platform independent programming approach. But Java also supports structured programming approach as well as object oriented programming approach. So Java supports the before platform independent programming approach, all other approaches are supported by Java. But the main feature of the Java is platform independence, and platform means OS, operating system, under which you are executing the program. The same program can be compiled on a single operating system and then it gives the bytecode. That bytecode can be executed in any operating system. Now I will write a simple code of Java. So we have understood these are programming approaches: structured programming approach C, object oriented programming approach C++, platform independent programming approach Java. C and C++ does not support platform independent programming approach. Okay, so now we are going to write a program in Java and we are going to see how it will execute. How much time is covered? Now I am going to show how to write a Java program and how to execute it. How to write a Java program and how to execute it. So first I am opening Notepad. First I am opening Notepad. Here I am typing Notepad. Notepad. Now under the notepad, this is the notepad, it is a text editor. Here we can type the program. Now remember one thing, whenever you are going to write any Java program, there must be a class. This is the basic difference between C++ and Java. Under C++, without writing a class, you can execute your program, because there will be the main function as starting point of execution, and main function is present outside the class. So that's why in C++, without writing a class, we can execute a program. But in case of Java, without writing a class, we cannot execute main function. Why? Because main function is present inside the class. So in case of C++, the main function is present outside the class, and in case of Java, the main function is present inside the class. So whenever you are going to write any Java program, there must be a single class, and under that class, the main function will be present. We can write multiple classes in Java, that we'll learn later. But in case of Java, whenever you are going to write any source code, you have to write a class. You have to write a class. But in case of C++, without writing a class, we can write the program. So in case of Java, we have to write a class. So here we are writing a class called student. We are writing a class. I am increasing the font size so that it will be visible. I am increasing the font size. I am writing a class. It is not increased. Deep font. So here I am writing a class called student. Here I am writing a class called student. See, remember, as per convention, whenever you are writing any class name, it must be started with uppercase letter. So that means any class name when you are writing, this is not a rule, this is a convention. So first you have to understand what do you mean by rule and what do you mean by convention. Rule means which has to be followed. Rules has to be followed, but convention you may follow, may not follow, but it will execute both the time. So whenever you are writing any class name, the first letter must be in capital letter as per the convention. So if you write the class name in small letter, then also your program will execute. But whenever you are maintaining a program standard, then you must write the class name in uppercase letter. So we have written a class called student. So student is the class. Student is the class. Now under the student class, I am writing main function public static void main string error bracket. Then here I am writing system dot out dot println what print message I am writing, welcome to Java, welcome to Java. then we are closing the main function, we are closing the class. So now see in this program, just see, look at carefully, there are curly braces. So this is the delimiter. Curly braces are known as what? Delimiter. So under student class is begin here and student class is closed here. Now within the student class I have written main function. So main function is starting from this point and ending at this point, and class is ending at this point. Now see, whenever we are writing the main function, always we have to write public static void main. We cannot change it. If I do not write public, then your program will compile, but during execution time it will give you the message that main function is not found. If you do not write main function as public, and if you are executing that program, it will give you the message main function not found. Why? Because main function is accessed outside the student class by the Java virtual machine. So Java virtual machine, whenever execute a bytecode, it will search for the main function and it will call that main function. Now it can call that main function only when it is public. So whenever you are writing the main function, always write the access modifier called public. Why? Because main function is called outside the student class. Then next signature is static. So what do you mean by static? See, under a class, any class of C++ concept I am saying, under any class, let us suppose one function is present. So let us suppose under student class there is a function called display. Now the display function I want to call outside the student class. So I cannot call the display function, let us suppose it is public function. Though display function is public function, but you cannot call it directly. First you have to create the object of the class, and then using the object you have to call that particular function called display.